Alhamdulillah wassalat wassalam ala nabiyillah wa ba'd. To proceed, resuming our Friday night sessions, addressing some of the common misconceptions that are spread and circulated on the net. We do so to educate ourselves from the perspective of knowing right from wrong. Haqq min al-batil. Nur min al-dhulma, light from darkness. This is something essential that we always keep in our mind, that we should always aim to know what is correct from that which is wrong. Especially in a day and age where there are so many callers to doubts and things that are so confusing. So just as a benefit that we continue to address these affairs, hoping that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides us to that which is correct. يَهْدِيَنَا فِي مَخْتُلِفَ فِيهِ مِنَ الْحَقِّ بِإِذْنِهِ, that He guides us to what the people have differed concerning. And this should be بُغْيَةُ الْمُؤْمِنِ. As it's been said, the goal of the believer is the truth. الْحَقُّ ضَالَةُ الْمُؤْمِنِ. It's that lost thing that he's always on search for. In every field, every topic, he's always on search for the truth, no matter what madhab he may be, what particular ideology he has, what masjid he came from, whatever country he's in, he should always be on search of the truth, for him or against him. So this is something I just wanted to share of a benefit. The first thing that I wanted to address before going into some of the misconceptions is that we should understand some of the sources for misconceptions, and the reason and the causes for that is that we may be giving our ears to people that are spreading doubts, especially online. And I'll play here some beautiful words of Sheikh Abdul al-Badr speaking about such a topic.
كثير من الشباب يفتح النافذة، أقصد بالنافذة القنوات والمواقع التي في الإنترنت، ويقول أريد أن أنظر ماذا يقولون، ماذا. هذه بدايته، ثم يجد أن الأفكار الباطلة تتسرب إلى قلبه وتتسلل إلى نفسه حتى تعميه، وهو في البداية فقط يريد أن ينظر ماذا يقولون.
So the Sheikh Abdul al-Badr mentions that many of the youth, they find themselves giving their ear, where they listen to these channels, these qanawat, these channels of the internet and web pages, where they say they just want to look. And this is the start of it. This is their excuse.
وتجد مثلا يقول ايش انظر ايش يحتجون به، هو ما عنده مسكين يعني من العلم ما يدفع به تلك الحجج، فيجد أن الأشياء التي يستدلون بها تتسرب إلى قلبه لأنه مكنهم من قلبه.
So he mentioned that the person starts off like this, just saying I was out of curiosity, he wants to look and he wants to hear what they would have to say. And this person is not so strong and grounded in knowledge, and as a result of that, he's blinded. Yu'mi, he mentioned in the speech. And this would lead to it going to his heart. For verily he made them have this positioning to reach his heart.
كيف مكنهم من قلبه؟ أعطاهم سمعه وأعطاهم بصره.
How did he give them positioning? He gave them his ears and also his eyes.
فأدخلوا أفكارهم وسمومهم.
And as a result, they entered their ideologies and their poison from this avenue.
تسمع ولا كلمة. هذه وصية. فكيف الآن بالشاب المسكين الذي لا علم له أو الشابة التي لا علم لها ويجلس في القنوات والمواقع ينظر ويشاهد ويدخل هنا وهناك.
The Sheikh, he mentioned a couple of narrations from the pious predecessors, how cautious they were about giving their ear to people that are known for so much misconceptions and doubts and confusion. So he said, if this is the pious predecessors, We're so knowledgeable. Imagine a young man who enters these websites and these channels, and he gives his ears and he's watching, and he's going there and here of different sites. He said this is from the greatest of reasons to be trialed in a fitna, and also from the greatest of reason to be taken by a sickness of a spiritual illness. Also, another benefit that I want to share is some profound words by Shaykh Islam of our time, Imam Ibn Baz rahimahullah.
من أظهر المنكر أو البدعة يحذر منه ولا ينظر إلى حسناته بينه وبين ربه. من أظهر المنكر أو البدعة يحذر منه ينصح حتى يهتدي. هكذا جاءت السنة.
So Shaykh Ibn Baz rahimahullah, he says, whoever makes it manifest evil or innovation, then he's to be warned from. And you're not to be looked to the good that he has. The good that he's have is between him and his Lord. He says, whoever brings out evil or innovation, then he's to be warned from and advised up until he becomes guided. This is what the Sunnah has come with. So this is a beautiful guideline that this Imam has suggested. And we should not listen to that misconception or that doubt that people say that if a person is from the top, most influential individuals of our era, or that has a lot of following, or has a station of positioning somewhere, that we cannot cancel him out or warn from him because of the good that he has done. This is not correct. For verily, if a person begins to deviate and go onto the path of misguidance and is bringing harm to the communities with his words and his creed and the things that he calls to, it is from preservation of this religion that we warn from that affair. And whatever good that he has done is between him and his Lord. We do not press him, it is between him and his Lord, but from the preservation of this religion, we have to warn from the deviation or the particular error that this person has came into, that he constantly calls to and misguiding others upon. A misconception that I wanted to speak about briefly was the saying that al-Jarh wa Tadeel is no longer existent. It is a science that is maqboor, buried. Its time and its era, it has passed away.
يقول السائل: هل سنة الجرح والتعديل ماتت؟ وما حكم الرد على المخالف بغض النظر عن شخصيته؟
So Sheikh Muhammad Salih al-Uthaymin was asked, has the tradition of Jarh wa Tadeel ended?
حكم الرد على المخالف بغض النظر عن شخصيته.
And what's the ruling on refuting a person in opposition, no matter who he is or despite his personality?
أنا أخشى أن تكون هذه كلمة حق أريد بها باطل.
He mentions that I fear that this statement is words of truth, but the intent behind it is false.
الجرح والتعديل لم يمت ولم يدفن ولم يمرض ولله الحمد.
He mentions Jarh wa Tadeel hasn't ended. Hasn't been buried. He mentions that it's still there, and all praise due to Allah. I'm generally translating, give a brief translation.
وقائم الجرح والتعديل يكون في الشهود عند القاضي، يمكن يجرحهم الخصم ويطلب منه البينة، ويكون أيضا في الرواية.
Mentions that Jarh wa Tadeel is qa'im. It is established. You can find it in the courtroom with the judge when it comes to the people of testimony, that they are looked at from the angle of jarh, of criticism. Also is found in the narrations of hadith.
سمعنا قراءة إمامنا قول الله تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا فالجرح والتعديل لا يزال باقيا ما دام نوع الإنسان باقيا.
He says we've heard Imam recite in his recitation the verse إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. So he says the jarh and ta'deel is established as long as they're human or inexistent.
ما دام النوع الإنساني باقيا فالجرح والتعديل باقي. لكن أنا أخشى أن يقول قائل إن هذا الإنسان مجروح وليس بمجروح فيتخذ.
So he mentions that he fears that people misuses, that they say someone is majruh in a state of being disparaged, yet he doesn't deserve that.
بمجروح فيتخذ من هذه الفتوى وسيلة لنشر معايب الخلق.
So he uses the affair of jarh wa ta'deel as a means to distribute the defects of the people. This is what he fears.
ولهذا أقول إذا كان في شخص عيب ما فإن اقتضت المصلحة أو الحاجة أو الضرورة إلى بيانه فلا بأس به.
He mentions that if there's a defect in a person and there's some sort of benefit or need or ضرورة to mention it, then there's no harm in that.
لا بأس في بيانه والأحسن لا بأس من بيانه ولكن الأحسن أن يقول بعض الناس يفعل كذا بعض الناس يقول كذا.
He says there's no harm of clarifying that, but what is better is to say some people they do this, some people they carry out this.
لسببين. السبب الأول أن يسلم من قضية التعيين والسبب الثاني أن يكون هذا الحكم شاملا له ولغيره.
For two main reasons he should do so. First reason, from mentioning the person by name or specifically. Second reason, so it can be a general ruling that includes him and other than him.
إلا إذا رأينا شخصا معينا قد فتن الناس به وهو يدعو إلى بدعة أو إلى ضلالة فحينئذ لا بد من التعيين حتى لا يغتر الناس به.
He says, except in a scenario where we see that people have been trialed by a person, there then it's necessary to do ta'yin, to mention this person specifically by name, so that people do not become deceived by this individual. Also, here's some speech of Sheikh Abdul Karim al-Khudair that I wanted to share, inshallah.
وهل يجوز إعمال الجرح والتعديل في هذا الزمان؟ نعم إذا قامت المصلحة.
He was asked, is it permissible to establish jarh wa ta'deel in this era? He said, yes, if there's a benefit.
يعني هناك شخص مبتدع يخشى من انتشار بدعته.
For example, there's a person, he's an innovator, and they fear that his innovation may become widespread.
وحذر من البدعة. البداء بدأ في أول أمر حذر من البدعة. ولا.
And at the very beginning, they warned from his innovation.
يذكر الأشخاص إلا إذا تعين ذكرهم.
Whereas not mentioning their name, unless it's necessary to do so.
بحيث استمر ضرره ولم يفهم
For example, in a scenario where it was continuous, their harm, and
خاطب إلا بالتصريح باسمه يصرح باسمه وكتب.
Whereas it's not known to the person addressing this person who you're warning from of his innovation, except by mentioning his name. They hear you mention him by his name.
أهل العلم طافحة بالرد على المبتدعة.
And the books of Ahl al-Ilm, the people of knowledge, is filled with refutations upon the innovators. Also, I want to mention some speech of Sheikh Salih al-Luhaydan, where he was asked a similar question.
يقول يا شيخ الناظر في كتب السلف الصالح رضي الله عنهم يجدهم يحرصون على تصفية الصفوف، فكان الطلبة يسألون الأئمة عن الرجال فيتكلمون الأئمة عن هؤلاء الرجال إما بجرح أو تعديل، وفي هذا العصر يكاد ينعدم هذا الأمر، فهل معنى هذا أنه انتهى وقت الجرح والتعديل؟
لم ينعدم هذا الأمر، فإن الناس إذا سألوا عن شخص يقتدوا به ويتبعوه يجب على من يعرف عن حاله ما يدعو لترك اتباعه أن يبين ذلك.
So he was asked if Jarh wa Ta'deel has ended, and he answered by saying that this hasn't become non-existent. Jarh wa Ta'deel. If for an instance, if someone were to be asked about an individual who they want to follow and take as an example, and he knows what would lead for to say about that he shouldn't be followed, it is incumbent upon him to clarify that.
حالي الشخص الذي يقتدى به أو يراد التعامل معه أو تزويجه وأمثال ذلك، فمن سئل عن شخص مثل هذا وجب أن يبين الحق.
So he was asked about someone that if he were to be taken as his example, or someone wanted to marry him off, or the likes of that, then it's incumbent upon the person being asked to clarify his condition. So this is all this in the context of Jarh wa Ta'deel. Even concerning the affair, if someone comes to you asking for your daughter's hand in marriage, this affair of asking people about who praises him and who criticizes him, this is something that has an origin.
وإذا علم أن الناس يأخذون بهذا ويتبعون على طريقته ويسيرون معه وجب عليه أن يبين لهم حاله حتى لا ينخدعوا به فالجرح باق والتعديل.
So he mentions that if he knows that the people are going to be misled by this person by following him, then he has to clarify so they don't become deceived by him. So this is all a brief overview of what the Shaykh is saying.
وإنما على قدر الحاجة. ألا تعلمون جميعا أن الشهود إذا شهدوا عند القاضي يطلب تعديلهم، وإذا لم يتم التعديل ويدعى الجرح يطلب الجرح حتى تقبل الشهادة أو ترد.
So he mentions that this is to be clarified according to the need. He said, do you not know that concerning the witnesses in the courtroom, that it's requested for someone to identify them, that they're trustworthy and reliable? So the Shaykh is clarifying that even Jarh wa Ta'deel is needed in the courtroom. Needed in the courtroom relating to testimony and so on. Also, I want to share some words of Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Abbad, where he was asked a similar question.
الجرح والتعديل كما هو معلوم ليس خاصا بالحديث، بل يعني حتى عند القرآن في جرح وفي تعديل، يعني في تزكية والشهود الذين يدلي لهم المدعي عليه يتبع بهم.
So the Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Abbad mentioned that Jarh wa Ta'deel is not confined to the narrations of hadith. And he mentions that you even need them, for example, in the courtroom with the witnesses.
ويأتي يسوع عيوبهم ويقول مثل لا يفعل الشهادة ولا يحكم علي بشهادته لأنه كذا وكذا وكذا، فليس مقصورا يعني على الحديث، لكن ليس.
He gives the example that a person may come and speak about the witnesses and say and mention their defects and say that this person is not reliable and this testimony cannot be accepted. So it's not confined to the narrations of hadith.
الحديث وقبوله يعني ينبني على جرح التعديل، وكذلك الأحكام أحكام القضاة تنبني على جرح التعديل، وكذلك أيضا الأمور الأخرى التي يحتاج إليها في غير القضاء مثل المشورة أيضا يعني يحتاج إلى جرح التعديل.
So he mentions that there's a lot of affairs that you need Jarh wa Ta'deel for. Even in the affair of consultation, you need Jarh wa Ta'deel. And as we know, with our personal lives, that if a person is even going to go shopping and he's going to consult someone and ask him which shop that is reliable to purchase this or to buy honey from this person, is it pure or not pure, this requires Jarh wa Ta'deel.
الإنسان يعني يريد أن يصاحب إنسان فيسأل عنه المسؤول.
He said if a person was consulting about accompanying another person, so he asks those who know him This is also from this perspective.
يعني يذكر بما فيه يعني هذا من النصيحة.
And the person will respond by clarifying what he knows about the person. And this is from nasihas. So another thing I wanted to clarify, that there's a constant misconception where there was a verdict for Sheikh Salih Fawzan mentioning that Jarh Tadeel has ended. And when a person reads the speech of Sheikh Salih Fawzan, it's in reference to its specific meaning, which was originally established, of Jarh Tadeel. But really, when he's asked concerning it, he was asked, هل الجرح والتعديل في الأشخاص يمكن أن يطبق الآن? Is it possible that جرح والتعديل can be established now concerning individuals لأجل مصلحة الدعوة, due to the benefit of da'wah? So he responds by saying, الجرح والتعديل هذا في علم الرواية, في علم الإسناد, وهذا له رجاله وله علماؤه. He says that Jarh wa Ta'deel, this is a science concerning the narration of hadith and the chains of narration, and it has its men for it and its scholars. ولا في أحد الآن فيما نعلم عنده أهلية لهذا الأمر, هذا من الحفاظ والعلماء الذين أعطاهم الله ملكة الرواية ومعرفة الأحاديث. He says he does not know of, according to his knowledge, anyone who has this qualification of what the huffaz of the past and the ulama, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them that type of malaka, that type of capability and skill and understanding of a hadith. So you can see that the speech of Sheikh Salih Fawzan is confined to this type of jarh wa ta'deel. أما الآن فلا في أحد متأهل لهذا. He said that as for now, there's no one has this type of qualification. إذا كان هناك إنسان مبتدع. Then he clarifies what else that a person may be speaking about, which is warning from an innovator, labeling an innovator, giving criticism for an innovator. He deems this to be another affair. He gives a different wording. إذا كان هناك إنسان مبتدع ما يسمى جرح وتعديل. If there's an innovator, this is not called جرح وتعديل. هذا إنسان مبتدع. This person is an innovator. يذكر لأجل يحذر. This person innovator, he is mentioned so people can be warned from him. ما هو من باب الجرح والتعديل. It's not from the angle of جرح والتعديل, بل من باب النصيحة للناس, from the angle of نصيحة for the people. So we can understand what he means by جرح والتعديل. So when you understand the speech of a scholar, you can understand it doesn't go against what other scholars have mentioned. For verily, as Sheikh Ahmed Najmi rahimahullah mentioned, for every era there's a level of جرح وتعديل.
عندي سؤال شيخ ممكن؟ يا شيخ هل يوجد علماء الجرح والتعديل في هذا الزمان؟ علماء ايش؟ علماء الجرح والتعديل في هذا الزمان.
So Sheikh Ahmed Najmi was asked, oh Sheikh, do there exist in this era علماء of جرح وتعديل?
ايوه علماء الجرح والتعديل بحسب زمانهم. ومن
He was asked this question, he responded by saying yes. And the ulama of Jarh wa Ta'deel according to the era. So yes, if he was a reference to like ulama of Jarh wa Ta'deel of the past, then no, they're non-existent. But in accordance to every era, then yes. Also, some may use some vague speech for Sheikh Abdullah al-Ghudayyan, which is in reference to Jarh wa Ta'deel, ulama of Jarh wa Ta'deel, of its first of establishment and what is known and renowned for. Yes, that is non-existent of this era. But if it's reference to for every time a specific Jarh wa Ta'deel or the warning of Ahl Bid'ah and giving criticism and praise, then this is something that Sheikh Abdullah Ghudayyan himself establishes, and you can notice that from how he speaks about certain individuals when he's asked about them.
نعم أثابكم الله. بعد عرض هذه الأقوال وهذه القواعد ما قول سماحتكم في هذا الشخص؟
So they presented to the Sheikh Abdullah al-Ghudayyan statements of an individual. Commonly, they presented to Sheikh Abdullah al-Ghudayyan statements of an individual, of the individual known as Adnan Arur, and they presented his principles, and they're asking him, now that you know these statements of his, what is your opinion concerning this individual?
هذا ما ينبغي أن يسمع منه لأن هذا الرجل يفسد أكثر مما يصلح.
So he responds by saying, it's not appropriate to listen to this type of person. For really, this man brings more harm than good. And this is just one example. If you read his other speech about groups, deviant groups, or other individuals, you can see that he establishes the affair of Jarh wa Tadeel. And sometimes this misconception comes from a people that do not want Jarh wa Tadeel to be established at all. They want the affair of not warning from innovators or warning from individuals that deserve it. These people, it's mainly due to they themselves are perhaps guilty of jarh. They deserve to be criticized and critiqued. For that reason, they want to close this door of the affair of Jarh wa Ta'deel, and they look for these type of misconceptions and doubts and take certain speech of scholars and misrepresent them.
نعم. الذي يقول إنه انتهى مع زمن الرواية. الذي يقول إنه انتهى يا أخوان هم يعلمون أنهم مجروحون.
So he mentions those who come and spread this misconception. They themselves know deep inside that they are guilty and they deserve to be critiqued and have the affair of jarh established on them.
من أجل هذا ما يريدون أن يتكلم أحد في الجرح والتعديل.
He says for this reason, they do not want anyone to establish the affair of Jarh wa Ta'deel. Another affair that I wanted to speak about quickly, inshallah, is when does a person takes a general ruling of the people of innovation. So I'm going to play some speech of Sheikh Abdul al-Badr in a lecture where he gives the signs of the people of innovation.
إذا تلاحمت بالقلوب النسبة تواصلت بالأبدان الصحبة. وهذه كلمة من أجمل ما يكون. إذا تلاحمت بالقلوب النسبة يعني مال قلب الإنسان إلى الأهواء وأهل الأهواء تلاحمت بالأبدان الصحبة. بدنه يذهب ويجالس أهل الأهواء. ولهذا من جالس أهل الأهواء ولازمهم وابتعد عن أهل السنة هو من أهل الأهواء. ويدل على ذلك حديث أبي هريرة المرفوع: الأرواح جنود مجندة فما تعارف منها ائتلف وما تناكر منها اختلف.
So Sheikh Abdul al-Badr mentions a number of statements of the pious predecessors in his lecture. And he mentions from that is that when a person has desires and inclines to innovations and corrupted ideologies, you find that is manifested in his companions that he takes. So he says you find for this reason that he inclines to its people, and also he keeps far and distant from the people of the Sunnah. So this person, he said, he's from amongst them, from the people of these desires. He says what proves that is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that the souls are recruited soldiers. What they find in themselves in harmony, they unite upon. Also, Sheikh Salih Fawzan, he was asked this question that we're going to play.
فضيلة الشيخ وفقكم الله، الذي لا يبدع المبتدع الذي بدعه العلماء وبدعوا منهجه وحذروا منه، الذي لا يبدعه هل يلحق به؟
So Sheikh Salih Fawzan was asked about the one who does not declare an innovator that has been declared an innovator by the scholars, and his innovation has been made manifest as innovation and been made manifest as a clear innovated methodology. So is those who do not do so along with the scholars, are they to be added along with him?
الذي لا يبدعه يلحق به لأنه ما يرى أنه على بدعة وأن عمله ليس بدعة وأن الناس مخطئون في الحكم عليه بالبدعة. نعم.
So the Shaykh mentions, yes, he's to be added along with him. For verily he doesn't see what this person is upon is innovation. And this is a reference to something clear, innovation. It's something that is renowned, clear. And with that, after things have been made clear to this person, he's persistent and he esteems everyone else to be in error. So he says this person is to be added along with him. So this is different from the principle of the Haddadiyah, who apply this principle absolutely. Whoever doesn't declare a person to be innovator, he's an innovator upon with him, exactly with him. Because that cannot be used unrestrictedly, but really there's times where it's not so clear, or the person may have a point of view for why he doesn't declare the person to be an innovator, so on and so forth. But this is what we're talking about, a person that is known, and for him inclining to a group or particular people, and it's known the affair is clear innovation has been manifested to him, this person is added along with him. Also, Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah, he was asked the following question. So Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah, was asked, the one that praises Ahl Bid'ah, does he take the ruling of Ahl Bid'ah? He says yes, with no doubt. He mentions the one that praises Ahl Bid'ah takes their ruling, he's who calls for them is from their callers, he says, their du'at. So our scholars have clarified that there are people who are amongst Ahl Bid'ah that generally take the ruling of Ahl Bid'ah. Generally take the ruling of Ahl Bid'ah, who are included with them. And this is another affair that Shaykh Mubin rahimahullah clarified. هل يجوز إطلاق لفظة مبتدع على شخص بالتعيين لكونه ينتمي إلى إحدى الجماعات الحزبية المعاصرة? He's asked, is it permissible to express the wording innovator upon a person specifically due to him ascribing himself to one of the biased partisan groups of this era? So he responded by saying, لا أعلم مانعا من هذا. I do not know of anything that prevents this. إلا جماعة الحق فلا, except if he ascribes to the correct group. He says, وإذا كان جاهلا فهذا بينه وبين الله سبحانه وتعالى. He says, if he's ignorant, then this is between him and his Lord. So generally, concerning groups that are clear, for example, the Salafiyyah, the people that ascribe to them and incline with them and do their actions, and it's been established upon them that these affairs of the truth become widespread, but they continue to ascribe to these type of people, they're generally added along with them. So this is the statements, and there are particular affairs where in certain circumstances the bid'ah, if it's not clear, or it is something the person was once upon the sunnah, these type of affairs, it be returned back to the scholars who can identify the affair, and also that the hujjah can be established upon the person. There's some innovations that doesn't require so much qualification in Jarh Tadeel. You don't have to be a professor in Jarh Tadeel to mention that this person is what he is. For example, if a person is saying that the Quran is deficient and he's cursing Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha and he's insulting most of the Sahabas or saying that they're disbelievers, it doesn't require a person to be a professor to state that this man is someone that is not upon the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and that he's an innovator. So the matters that are crystal clear, some of our mashayikh have made a tafriq, a distinguishment between matters that are extremely clear, where people can give a ruling, and matters that are not so clear, where it requires that the scholars do tabdi'a. They give the ruling of tabdi'a, and they give a specific ruling on the individual. So these are affairs that people need to separate between the two.